Welcome to the 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, and I'm your host, as well as the managing partner of 76 Capital. And as you know, 76 Capital is the sports tech venture capital fund. On this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are truly shaping and many times changing the overall sports industry. Before we get started, I got to give a quick shout out to Ty and to Vince, who are always making it all happen back at the station, behind the scenes, and always making us look good on the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Wayne Kimmel, as well as 76 Capital across all the social media networks. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur or you're building a company within the sports industry, reach out to us at 76 Capital. We want to get to know you. We want to try to help you, especially if it's something within the sports betting industry, the esports industry, or just generally in the sports tech world. Let's see if we can find ways to help each other. Now let's get right to it. We have an amazing guest today. We have someone who we can now call a partner of ours at 76 Capital. We have Casey Clark, the Senior Vice President of Strategic Communications at the AGA. Casey, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
It's great to be with you, Wayne. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on our show, to call you, as well as the American Gaming Association, our partner in this really, really exciting Have a Game Plan campaign, which is all about responsible betting and gaming and just making sure that people do the right thing so this incredible industry has an opportunity to grow together. So I think it would be great to kick this off, Casey, is to share with our audience how this all came about, the actual campaign in general, and then also how we started working together on this.
Well, I really, really appreciate your partnership, Wayne. As you mentioned, 76 Capital became the 12th partner of our campaign that we kicked off towards the end of 2019. So it's been a really quick evolution for this campaign that kind of mirrors, I guess, the quick evolution that we've been talking about with sports betting. And so we're really excited about what it is and what we're trying to do and the partners that we have that are helping to enable it. So in 2019, we started thinking about, the opportunity for legal sports betting had just gotten off the ground. In 18, obviously, with the Supreme Court's invalidation of PASPA, and the wheels were quickly in motion, as you appreciate, and everyone watching here will appreciate. And so what we started to notice in the gaming industry is that we've spent a lot of our time and a lot of resources over a long period of time, decades, of committing to responsible gaming, which is how do we ensure that our customers are educated about the games they're playing, understand how to win, understand the rules of the games, understand the risks, understand when to step away, and training our employees on how to make sure that they're vigilant in watching how people are engaging with our products. This is, gaming products are made for adult entertainment and they're supposed to be fun. And so we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort in our industry committed to that. And certainly, as people started thinking through all of the commercial opportunities that existed with sports betting, we wanted to make sure that responsibility was also front and center. And so we started working with partners like Monumental Sports here in Washington and the Vegas Golden Knights were our first couple of partners to really bring consumer education about this new opportunity, because we knew that consumers and fans were now going to start seeing this much more integrated into their fan experience than they ever had before. And so our goal was to create something pretty fungible and easy to adopt that would apply across multiple properties, whether that be in a basketball game or a hockey arena or, a podcast talking about to the investment community that might be interested in this. So our sense has always been there's a huge ecosystem around sports betting, and our goal was to get everybody that's in that business rowing the boat in the same direction, primarily so that we could make sure we had an educated and informed consumer base about what sports betting is, what the opportunities are that exist, where they can do it legally, how they do it safely, and where they can get help if they need it. So our goal was to bring everybody together, and with your help, we're really making a lot of traction.
Well, we're certainly, honored and excited to be a partner of the American Gaming Association on this effort. When you talk about the goals and the different partners, who are some of the, you mentioned Monumental and the Vegas Knights, who are some of the other partners that are in this program?
It's one of the most rewarding parts of this for me is seeing the diversity of the partners who are coming into the tent. We have leagues like the NASCAR and the NHL and UFC. We have We have media companies like the Bally Sports Network and Sinclair Broadcasting. We have payments processing companies who are running all the back end stuff on, like Sightline Payments and some others that are coming on board. The Washington football team just joined as our first NFL franchise. And so we've just got a lot going on, and that doesn't even account for the operators, right? So FanDuel and DraftKings are members of our campaign and super active partners, not just on this, but with the AGA in general. So really great partners, and we've got a lot more in the hopper. So it's really picking up a lot of steam, and we're really excited about where we're headed.
Well, that's amazing. And again, as I said, it's incredible for us to be part of that as your first partner from the investment side of the world. We're excited about it, and we really think it's important for us to let the entrepreneurs out there, let all the people who are creating the next thing in the sports betting industry, that you got to think about this. You got to think about doing things the right way, making sure that your players that come and your customers that come onto your platforms are betting in a responsible way to make sure that this industry really does get to the levels that we believe it will go to.
I think that's completely the right approach. And if you look at other industries, I spent a long time in the consulting business before coming over to gaming about 4 years ago. And in that business, we talked a lot about the changing dynamic of stakeholder expectation on business, particularly as it relates to what used to be CSR and now it's ESG related content. And if you think about responsibility in gaming in a similar light, the idea that this is an actual business imperative and an operational imperative rather than just a nice to do thing, which I think is where CSR started, which was still an appropriate place to get going from the business community, but it's much more ingrained now in terms of how people are operating their businesses, because not just because it's a nice PR stunt, but because it's actually an operational imperative for people to get things right. And our goal for all of us involved here is to prolong this category and make sure that we do that responsibly and do it right. So our goal at the AGA from before PASPA was even invalidated has been, we need to get sports betting right. It was much more about that than it was ever about speed to market or expansion to every market as quickly as possible. It was about, we have an opportunity in this country to create something that would be unique to the mature sports betting markets that are in other parts of the world. And so that's been our focus for the past few years. And I think so far so good.
Well, so far, so great from our perspective, and we're so excited to be part of this. And again, we're excited to have Casey Clark, the Senior Vice President of Strategic Communications at the American Gaming Association, as our guest on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And Casey, we jumped right into the game plan side of have a game plan campaign, but we really want to hear about you and your background and how you became such a top executive within the sports betting industry. Tell us where you grew up. A little bit about you. Were you into sports when you were younger? What were some of the things that interest you as you grew up and became the senior vice president at the AGA?
Well, I worry that we've already talked about the most interesting stuff. But I'm happy to talk a little bit about myself too. I grew up I think in a great environment. I moved around quite a bit, but I fundamentally based in sports. My upbringing, I played pickup everything whenever the opportunity existed. I was in somebody's backyard playing football or baseball, or at the elementary school playing basketball. But soccer was the sport that I really leaned into and played competitively through high school, and still enjoy to this day. And my kids play, and so it's a continued tradition for our family, which has been really fun to stay close to the sport. I grew up, like I said, moving around a lot, both in suburban Dayton, Ohio, and near your country. I spent 9 years in Bucks County as a kid, but ultimately went to high school in Belgium. I went to the International School of Brussels for high school for 3 years, so really got to be around the sport of soccer in a really exceptional way and play it at a much different level. And so that really helped me appreciate a lot about the world of not just sports, but the world itself. So I really loved it. And then after that, I went back to Dayton, which is my hometown, for college at the University of Dayton. And now I have a son there. So it's all coming full circle, I guess.
Well, that's an amazing story, and I love, look, I feel like I'm being surrounded by soccer players. My partner Chad. Now we have Alejandro Bedoya, from the Philadelphia Union, who's one of our 76 Capital on our 76 Capital Athlete Venture Group. So it's really great to have, for me, I'm learning a lot about that game. So it's awesome. I mean, Casey, one of the things that I think you touched on a little earlier, and you mentioned, PASPA and the overturning of PASPA and how that really just has supercharged and really allowed the supercharge of the sports betting industry. The AGA was in the middle of all of this from day one. Talk a little bit about what the AGA was doing prior to you getting there, as well as when you got there, and kind of what happened next.
Well, I think it was probably day minus 100, from what the AGA was doing, and my colleagues and the folks who actually hired me at the AGA a couple of years ago, Jeff Friedman and Sarah Slane, were leaders in this space, and Sarah, continues to be really active in this space, and so I know she's been on this series too. So, and she's great, and so I had the great fortune of learning directly from her and working for a number of years, which really instrumental in terms of helping my career development and my understanding of this space. But I think Jeff and Sarah and others in the industry really looked at a couple of things. One was this misnomer that Americans somehow weren't betting on sports because it was prohibited by the Congress, and that just wasn't the case. And so spent a long time focusing on highlighting the perils of the illegal market and the size of it. There was a lot of research done, and AGA's number, and sometimes this gets debated, but AGA's number was that there was about $150 billion annual market being run illegally here in the United States. And so that was offshore sites and corner bookies. And some people think that number is really low. Some people think that number is really high. But it did put a number on what this really was and the opportunity that existed, and in the issue that was happening when you have everything below board. There are no protections for consumers. There are no regulators watching to make sure that where that money is coming from and where that money is going. There's no guarantee that people are being paid out. There's no commitment of resources on responsibility or problem gambling side for people who truly just were in it entirely for the commercial aspects of taking people's money. And so, there was a lot of effort put on highlighting the perils and the scope of the illegal market, which then pivoted to, once the Supreme Court took New Jersey's petition to how do we then approach making sure that everyone understands what this opportunity could be, and how we can actually make this a much better scenario for tax revenue that comes into local jurisdictions and states and the federal government. There's opportunities for the protection of the player, like we've talked about, the protection for the integrity of the competition that really only happens with, as from U.S. integrity, that only happens when watchful bookmakers and others are paying attention to how these things are, what the movement looks like on certain lines and when it happens. And so, we've been committed to this for a long time at the AGA, and we're certainly ready when things pivoted. I don't think anybody would have seen this coming as quickly as it has. It's certainly a great problem to have for all of our members who are interested and committed to doing this the right way. So we're excited about how far we've come, and it's certainly been a whirlwind for me professionally. You were generous in your description of me in my role, but I think I've been very fortunate to catch lightning in a bottle. I can't imagine a more exciting time to be working in this industry as a lifelong sports fan. If you told me that my days were going to be spent doing this sort of thing and talking to leagues and teams and everybody else in between all the time about something that we're doing together. I mean, it's such a cool opportunity and so much fun every day. And so really lucky to be a part of it.
Well, I think you just said something really interesting. Together, the being able to work together with teams and leagues. I mean, it was prior to PASPA being overturned, it was like this, I remember Sarah talking about it. It was this constant fight. And then all of a sudden it was like, wait, you're our friends. How can we do business together? Let's figure this out. Let's create these really big deals. I mean, as we roll into the NFL season here in 2021, I mean, the deals, the amount of money, I mean, it's unbelievable what has happened so quickly. So let's go back. Hundreds
of deals, hundreds of commercial partnerships that are happening between leagues and teams and gaming companies and technology providers and media companies and everybody in between, and it's just amazing, right? And I think that the opportunities that exist here are because we're all doing it together. It's not a fluke, and I think that there's commercial opportunity that exists. And I think that, you mentioned at the beginning of this, that some of the leagues were active litigants against this opportunity while we were already, unearthing what this was going to look like and why it should be that way, why we should be in this position that we're in, like regulate gaming, bring it above board, create the safeguards that should exist in this market, and apply the standards and the rigorous standards that traditional gaming companies had to meet in order to do anything in this country, right? So we're one of the highest regulated businesses that exist in the United States, and for good reason. And so our members are very diligent, really good at their jobs. And so the opportunity to bring this betting activity that clearly Americans love to do, and put it in the hands of people who know how to do it and under the watchful eyes of 4,000 regulators across the country who spend every day thinking about this was absolutely the right thing to do.
You mentioned earlier you joined the AGA in September of 2017. Jeff and Sarah bring you in, and a lot happened between then and May 14th of 2018 when PASP was overturned. What was that? What was it like? I mean, it wasn't like you just came in and you sat down at your desk and like, hey, I got this thing, and it must have been completely wild.
I mean, look, it was a fascinating thing to come into, and I remember sitting down with Jeff before my first day, and he said, "Listen, you're going to feel really pressure to put points on the board because that's who you are, and you're going to want to do that early." And he said, "But it's going to take you a year before you know anything, and by year 2, you're going to realize you really didn't know anything at year 1." And so, he was giving me a pretty long runway, which I was appreciative for on my first day on the job. But I think I caught up a little faster than Jeff's timeline. But it's just a complex business, and the players are different, and then the environment changed entirely in the middle of it. So it was a whirlwind for sure. We had, and not just for sports betting, but for the gaming industry entirely. We had the horrific shooting in Las Vegas was my 11th day on the job, and we had all of our the entire industry together in Las Vegas for our trade show G2E. And so, it was a really amazing experience for someone new to the job to really get to understand an industry and your colleagues really, really well in a time of crisis. You really get to know a lot about people, and not a single person in this business or in the AGA flinched, and everybody stepped up. And it was just a remarkable validation of the move that I've made to come over. And since that time, like you said, it's been buckle up, because we had from G2E in 2017 to the Supreme Court hearing in early December to the ruling in May. And then everything that's unfolded, seemingly daily since has been just a wild ride.
So you talk about how, the ruling comes down in May 14th of 2018. People, some of your members, right? We're like on one side of the issue, and then all of a sudden, I guess some were on one side, some weren't. I mean, it kind of was all over the place. And then it was like everyone seemed to just get into the game. At least that's the way it looked from our perspective. What was it like on your side? I mean, were certain groups concerned? Were certain ones taking it slower than others? But it seems like at this point in 2021, everyone's all in.
Yeah, look, I think a couple things came to play. One was, sports betting is a relatively low margin business, and so if you're talking about these large integrated resort businesses that are running multinational casino operations and other things, it was seen as an opportunity to add to a portfolio that was performing quite well at the time. And so, it was an amenity, but not something that was going to drive, all of the revenue for the casino business for a long time. And so I think as the pace picked up and as the legalization spread as quickly as it did, people started to realize that the opportunities were sooner and closer than maybe they would have thought early in that process. But certainly everybody saw the opportunities about providing the right safeguards and the legalization would bring. All that PASPA did was enable a really giant illegal market to thrive and prosper. It wasn't, it did not provide the safeguards it intended to, did not provide any, did not stop Americans from betting on sports. And so, I think everyone in our industry was aligned around, we should make this activity legal so that it can be monitored and watched and regulated appropriately. But I do think you're right that there's different levels of adoption, and that's true with all new technology and all new opportunity. I don't think everyone always kind of buys horizon at the same time. But, the pandemic also led to a lot of people getting in line with mobile wagering and considering that as a different option when every casino in the United States was shut down. And 650 plus thousand of our colleagues were out of work in a matter of 10 days. And so, I think there's been a lot of change in this short amount of time that hasn't been that long since May 14th, 2018 to where we are today. And then you add, 18 months or 20 months of a global pandemic to that. And I think that, it shortens the time frame even a little bit more. So I think in some ways it's been an opportunity to advance and maybe speed up the adoption of mobile wagering, be that intrastate sports betting or online casino, but some of those things are still evolving, and so in a lot of ways we're still a nascent market here for both of those things.
Well, one of the things that has happened is you said so many deals have happened, so many things have happened in the industry. DraftKings going public as a SPAC, prior to that, the Penn National Barstool deal. All of a sudden, you have Barstool in this game. The rumors now of ESPN potentially getting into this game, Fanatics getting into the game. It's a lot's changed really fast.
Well, a lot's changed really fast because I think opportunity draws a lot of attention. I think I was at the Sports Business Journal's World Congress of Sports a few years ago, and sports betting was the topic du jour, and everyone was bringing up the opportunities that exist. And I think you're seeing that it's evolving quickly, and it's changing some of the way that companies get involved in this, and it's changing the way teams and leagues approach this market. It's changing everything from stadium design, right? How do you ensure that you're implementing 5G technology to ensure that if it's legal in your state, someone could sit at their seat and bet on the game, right? And so I think it's really an exciting time to bring new people into the market. I think it's smart to see these people partnering with trusted and experienced operators who really know what they're doing to bring these things to light. And so it's exciting to see for sure.
Well, it's really great to have Casey Clark on our show. He's the Senior Vice President of Strategic Communications at the AGA on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. Make sure you follow Casey at Casey Clark DC. That's a great way to learn about all the things that are happening within the overall gaming industry and specifically in the sports betting industry here in the United States, as he does a heck of a job for the AGA. And, it's interesting, Casey, you mentioned stadiums and arenas, and, we had lunch a couple weeks ago together with David at the sports book inside the Capital One Arena. I mean, Matt, can you believe that this is? It was amazing just to be there.
Yeah, it's an exceptional facility. I mean, Caesars has done a great job in building that out in partnership with Monumental, and it's conveniently a block and a half from my office. So it's it's a great facility, and I think a great model that we're gonna start to see replicated all across the country, because there are opportunities and synergies that exist certainly between the fan engagement and betting, and we've known that for a long time. And so providing that opportunity and access to that for fans in arena makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing as we're taping this interview. I mean, earlier today, Wynn comes out with their new commercials with Shaq and Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
It's amazing. Just the other night on Monday Night Football, even though it was preseason, we had the Caesars Superdome. Hopefully everyone down there in New Orleans is okay now, and they'll be, but my God, I mean, to see the name, Caesars on the Superdome is unbelievable. Yeah,
look, I think that the PASPA invalidation by the court did a lot of things, but it broke down barriers that shouldn't have existed. And I think that we've created real synergies and opportunity to give fans the best experience that they want and they need. And so working together on that's been really fun. And so giving fans additional exposure and opportunity to have a little action on their favorite team when they're in the game, or they're at home, or they're at the sports book, or wherever it might be, provides a lot of level of engagement that I think you can't get otherwise. And it's activity that's now happening legally, and it's happening above board, and it's driving revenue that's much so needed for these local jurisdictions in these states. And so it's all in all a win-win as long as we all continue to work together on getting it right.
Well, one of the big things that that I believe is really important to you and the overall organization at the American Gaming Association and your CEO, Bill Miller, is your partnership and the big conference, G2E. There may be a number of people on this show that don't know G2E, have never been to G2E. Certainly wasn't a thing that if you were in the sports industry, you would go to in the past. But in the last couple of years, it's really been, sports betting, and the overall sports industry has shown up in big ways. Talk a little bit about what G2E is and some of the things that you're looking to achieve this year at this conference.
The attendee list has certainly changed quite a bit, and this will be my fifth one, if including the virtual one that we put together last year. We're really excited about the opportunity to bring the industry back together. G2E is the Global Gaming Expo. It's the premier global event that brings the entire gaming industry together. It's in Las Vegas the first week in October. It's always held at the Sands Expo. It's a great opportunity to be around people, to see your friends, to meet new people, and there's a ton of business to be had there. And that's kind of I think that's the exciting proposition. And certainly, like, we're in the hospitality business, and that being together is an important part of what we do. And so it's exciting that we're going to be able to bring G2E back together this year. We're going to add a virtual component for those of our typical attendees who might be in other markets or might have a hard time traveling at this time. So we realize that we're still in uncertain times related to public health, but I think, I know that we're doing everything possible to create the safest and healthiest environment that we can. And we're going to be able to put on a safe and really great show that's going to include really good keynotes that we're going to announce next week. So we're a week too early, Wayne. I can't disclose them yet, but I'm going to announce some great keynotes on sports side. We're going to have some really interesting keynotes on other key topics that are affecting the gaming business and business in general. We have education content across a wide spectrum, including the sports business, and including you. I hope, Wayne, you're going to join us for a panel, one of our panel discussions, and talk about all our great content. And so we've got a lot stacked up that's really going to create a great opportunity for people who are able to get to Las Vegas and those who might want to log in and view it from home. But really, for me, it's super exciting to think about being back in Las Vegas with all my friends and colleagues from the business, because it's just, you can't beat it. You really can't beat it.
Well, I mean, prior to PASPA being overturned, right, it was the conference itself was the conference. It still is the conference, right? But it was primarily the conference for land-based casinos. Is that correct? And like all the different equipment operators and it was to me like walking out there for the first time and going to the conference in 2018, which was my first conference, right? Or maybe I was there, I can't remember, but anyway, somewhere around then, was that it felt like I was walking into a casino, right? The floor with the slot machines and the table games and all the latest and greatest new technology from just the pure casino side of the business. And now you add the sports betting side, and I think it's even more exciting.
Well, I think the industry is a pretty broad and innovative industry, as you know and have pointed out, and so the show tends to be where a lot of new products that are going to be introduced to the market are on display for the first time. Typically, bring if there was a Madonna slot machine, they would bring Madonna. There's a lot of personalities that get incorporated into the show, which makes it pretty interesting. So there's still going to be a lot of that. There's still going to be a lot of our technology on display from our supplier members. The operator members will be there looking for what it is they want to bring into their floor and what that experience will look like. But there's going to be a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new exhibitors talking about their offerings as it pertains to a digital product maybe that's a digital slot machine, by the way. It's not just about sports betting technology. It's going to be all sorts of different opportunities and new innovations that are coming around. I think that if you tried to pin down how something that would define the gambling industry over the course of the last few decades, it's innovative. We're constantly looking for, how do we make sure that the fan experience or the customer experience is new and fresh and is meeting customers where they want to be? And so G2E is a great place to showcase a lot of that technology and a lot of that innovation. It's just and certainly sports betting is going to be another great year for sports betting innovation, I'm sure.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we attend. That's one of the reasons why we're so excited to be speaking at G2E this year again, as well as just being involved, because we think it's a great place for entrepreneurs to go who are really looking to think about what's the next thing in sports betting, in gaming in general. You'll see, I think if people haven't been, you'll see all sorts of new interesting technology. I mean, even from the world of esports and et cetera. I mean, there's just a lot of really interesting things to see. And look, now these worlds are all converging, and it's all this is the place where it all comes together in a physical setting.
That's right, and it's just fun, that's the other part about this business that we haven't talked about. It's just it's a fun business to be a part of. It's a fun and piece of hospitality sector that I didn't know much about at all before I came over, and so I'm learning every day and having a great time doing it, and really fortunate to be, I've got such a great team that I get to work with and for, and so it's a blast getting to work every day, and it's really fun leading up to G2E, which really does take over a lot of our staff's time, as you can imagine, between now and early October. And then we pack up the whole shop and we all go out to Las Vegas for a week and run our satellite office from out there. So it's something to look forward to every year for sure.
Well, you talk about the hospitality industry, talk about the gaming industry. I mean, all these things coming together. Ty and I were recently out in Las Vegas and did a tour of Allegiant Stadium, the new home of the Las Vegas Raiders, to see what they're doing, how they're integrating different concepts. There's a club, right, in the stadium. There's things that are being, I guess, borrowed from the traditional hospitality industry is now coming into the sports world. How do you see these things coming together in the future even more?
Well, I think as consumer expectations change, so will the business. So I think if you look at the most successful and maybe the most well-known brands in our business, that the traditional casino operators with an MGM or a Caesars or a Sands or Wynn, these guys have been operating integrated resorts for a long time. And that means that you're diversifying the revenue options that come out of your property to high-end retail or exciting shows or concert venues that you're attracting new people to, great food and restaurants with celebrity chefs, the nightclubs. So it's really about how do you create an experience where you have something for everybody. And I think that we're really good at that. And so it's not surprising to me that some of that is showing up in Las Vegas. That's now becoming a real central hub for sports, which is a really interesting evolution that's happened in this short amount of time too. But it's just a great time to be part of this business for sure.
Well, it absolutely is, and it's an exciting time right now. But sitting in your position as the Senior Vice President of Strategic Communications at the AGA, I'm sure maybe you don't have to break news here, but maybe sort of some of your ideas and some of the things that you're hearing that that things that you're working on that are in what the future will look like for the gaming industry and and some of the things that you as from an AGA perspective, are looking to help move forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great and loaded question, but I'll try to answer it as safely as I can. I think there's a lot that an association can do for the totality of an industry that maybe an individual company can't tackle on their own. And that's really the function that I think successful associations really employ. And so we're really strong in advocacy, and that's, that we really earned our stripes during the pandemic by enabling the business to have access to relief funds for the first time in our history. We've been literally carved out of every other relief measure that's ever been implemented in this country. And so for the first time, gaming companies and employees and people involved in our business had access to relief funds, which were critical to help get us back on our feet. And so, we're really strong at advocacy, so we're going to continue to look for opportunities to help the business environment around gaming writ large, not just sports betting, but everything. We've got some antiquated tax policy around the slot tax, which is pegged to the 70s and hasn't been elevated for inflation. And so there's kind of ongoing issues around traditional gaming that we want to look towards. But there's also about modernizing the consumer experience in our properties. Bill often talks about, our CEO, Bill Miller, often talks about our properties, the land-based brick and mortar casinos being one of the last bastions of cash in the world, outside of pawn shops and yard sales. And so, we're working really hard on modernizing payment opportunities for casino patrons to pay for the gaming experience the same way they pay for everything else within an integrated resort casino. And so, the opportunities that exist there in partnership with the FBI and FinCEN to better understand where money is coming from and where it's going when it's digital, actually increase the protections that exist there, and setting your own limits and budgets and things that we talk about with Have a Game Plan with partners like you too. So there's a lot of opportunity with payment modernization that's going to continue to be a focus of ours as we work towards helping our members continue to innovate and meet the customers where they are.
Well, as we start to wind down on this conversation here, Casey, I have to ask you, one of the things that we and our team here at 76 Capital really love the fact that you have, and I think David and you are overseeing basically the map of the country as to each state and what states now has legal sports betting and which ones have legislation pending, and talk a little bit about the research and the data and all the things that you and the AGA do to overall just share this information about what's happening from a sports betting perspective and how people can follow this industry.
I'll tell you, one of the things I'm proudest of my time at the AGA is the team that we put together, and they're just top notch. Dave Foreman, who you've mentioned, Anton Severin on our research team, we joke with them a lot that they're our chief cartographers because they spend a lot of time creating maps, but I think they're useful maps in terms of what kind of regulations exist in some places, what are the laws and regulations that guide gaming in those places, but also, like you mentioned, our sports betting map, which is a pretty key component to how people can follow along what's available to them in their key jurisdiction. All this stuff is available on AmericanGaming.org, but also you can find it on HaveAGamePlan.org as well. I think our goal has been to create at AmericanGaming.org a destination for all things gaming related and a place that people can easily find information that they're looking for. And I think we've done a really good job of creating something that is highly usable, highly accessible for all stakeholders, whether that be someone in the media, whether that be an investment company, whether that be a lawmaker. And so our goal is to create great content that drives, that educates and informs the information environment around our industry so that people are making the right kind of adjustments and to maybe antiquated posture about who we are. I think that the modern gaming industry is unlike what what Hollywood would probably want you to believe about what casino gaming is. But like I always say, it would be a really unsexy movie to talk about anti-money laundering leadership. So, we're excited about where we are as an industry. We're excited about what we're able to do as an association to help inform everybody about who we are as an industry. And so anything we can do to help move things along, we're excited about.
Well, one of the big things that everyone sort of waits for every year is your prediction on the handle for the NFL. And I know that's coming out soon.
It's coming soon.
Well, we're looking forward to that. It's something that, everyone quotes, everyone uses, in whether it's from the investment world to the media to, broadcasters will be talking about it now. So that's exciting. That's coming out very soon, right?
It'll come out shortly after Labor Day, so stay tuned for that. And for us, it's a good opportunity for us to remind people about the kinds of things that we find really important about getting this right, about doing it the right way, about reintroducing some of our core principles around sports betting and responsible sports betting. And so we can use sports hooks like March Madness or the beginning of the NFL season or the Super Bowl to reinforce some of these key things, because it is a time when I think there's a lot of sports fan and sports consumer attention is ratcheted up around what's going on in this business. And so our goal with partners like you, Wayne, and 76 Capital is to ensure that everyone still sees this as fun and is using it as a form of entertainment where it's legal and engaging in this the right way. So we appreciate everything you're doing to help us do that, and we're excited about not just the NFL season, but G2E and everything else in the next few weeks. It's going to be a busy fall.
Well, Casey, it's been amazing having you on our show. You've been a great guest. You've gotten us all excited and pumped up for what's coming next within the sports betting industry, the overall gaming industry. And remember, everybody, make sure that you follow Casey Clark at Casey Clark DC. He is someone you want to follow because of all the things that he has his hands in and involved with across the sports betting and gaming industry. So remember, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete, you're a student, you're a business person who wants to work or start a business, or you're creating something right now in the sports betting industry, you got to follow what's going on with Casey. You got to get involved with the American Gaming Association, and please reach out to us at 76 Capital as well. Maybe there are ways that we can help each other. So that's something that's so important to us. Feel free to reach out to us again. Again, my name is Wayne Kimmel. I'm your host of the 76 Capital Leadership Series. And again, Casey, thank you so much for joining our show and for being our partner and for allowing us, quite frankly, to partner with you and the AGA in the Have a Game Plan initiative.
Well, I love being with you, Wayne, and I really appreciate your leadership in this space. It's going to take all of us rowing this boat in the same direction to make sure that we create an environment that's sustainable and one where people are doing this for the right reasons. So I appreciate all your help.
Absolutely. And as you know, you just got to get out there and go make it happen. Just like you heard today, this is why this industry is growing. It's why this industry is at a place where it's waiting for more and more entrepreneurs and innovators to really do the next thing here. So again, Casey, thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to see you in Las Vegas at G2E.
I'll see you at G2E, Wayne. Thanks so much.